So ratings are their lowest for 15 years. The interest in the WWE product seems to be at an all-time low right now, and I think it's fair to say that this is a good time to be doing this video. The video, as you can see up above, is entitled, "Why are people tuning out of the WWE product?" And in this video, we invite you people that may have tuned out of the product or still tune into the product but don't enjoy it. We invite you guys to give us your reasons down in the comment section below as to why you are tuning out of the WWE product, because clearly a lot of people are. Like I said, ratings are at their lowest since 1997. It shows you really that a mass majority of people in the mainstream clearly just don't see the wrestling in the same light as they once did.
Because the thing about this is that there's many people who used to make YouTube videos that don't anymore because they're having to repeat the same thing over and over again, so they just stick to watching it. There are even people who watch it who don't watch it now. So in all honesty, the YWC is becoming less and less and less, and it's only the products to blame.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is when you do videos such as ourselves, one of the things you like doing is watching other people's videos. And while there are great people out there, you know, we can name like Off the Rope Show, Nature Girl 30, other people like that. Plenty of people you'll see in our channel shout-out box on our channel. There's a lot of people that used to do it that don't watch it and don't do reviews anymore. And when we first began in the YWC, there was a lot of people that did and talked about wrestling that we could watch. And now there really isn't that many. And that is a shame, really, because I feel there are a lot of good channels out there that just don't really get the recognition that they deserve.
No, and the first thing I want to quickly say is that when we first came onto YouTube back in 2011, there was a vast variety of people. There were even some people complimenting the company, but as time went on from then to now, it's became less and less popular.
Compare how you felt about WWE and going into a Raw in 2010 when we first started watching it, compared to how we go into watching a WWE Raw now, or just WWE's product in general. Just quickly compare and contrast 2010 to 2012 and how you see WWE in your eyes.
Even though I still love the company, because obviously it's the thing that got me into wrestling, I have came to the conclusion that they came up with so many ideas and they were hoping it would work out. But for me personally, as a WWE fan, they're not as good as they thought they were.
I think you summed it up best in the Raw review when you said there's just no E for entertainment in the product anymore. And while this may be quite a long video, guys, we invite you to watch this video and give us your reasons why you've tuned out down in the comment section below.
And please make sure you get popcorn, you get a nice like Monster, you know, lots of Monster, because this is going to be a long video and I don't really care because I'm going to enjoy this video.
Well, we have a lot of reasons in front of us right now as to why we feel people are tuning out the product. I guess we should probably start off at number one. In my opinion, the product is boring. I mean, you watch WWE right now, it's boring. It's not must-see anymore. And the reason why the ratings are so damn low is because people think that missing a Raw, they won't really miss that much. And when you get to that point, the product just gets ridiculously boring and no one wants to tune in to watch it. And that's why they're getting terrible ratings.
The word boring is the correct word to use, but the thing is, with the 3 hours they give us, there are some segments I can give thumbs up to, but to hold that thumbs up for 3 hours, especially in Raw, it's not something the WWE are able to do like they could have done probably a few years back.
And you mentioned this point as well, and I think it brings up another good point. There are some things on the show that you may watch and may like, but overall there's just so much crap. And to be honest, the product really isn't aimed at people like us anymore. It's aimed more at children. And the big demographic that watch WWE, such as adults, it's really hard for us to get into the product when it's really not aimed at us. And you know, like you said, there may be 1 or 2 segments you like in a show, but why watch a now 3-hour Raw or a 2-hour SmackDown, which is getting hard enough to watch as it is, when you're only going to be watching for 1 or 2 segments? You get to the point where it's like, well, I may watch for these 1 or 2 segments, but what's really the point? If you don't have like the mid-card, the tag, you know, all that kind of stuff to back up those segments that you enjoy watching, like for example, maybe the main event, then why would you want to watch it? And that is why people are just tuning out. They watch for maybe 1 or 2 segments on the DVR, and they don't watch the live show.
And the sad thing is, throughout the year, they've got like 12 months a year, and probably only a few of those months that actually give us exactly what we want, especially going towards WrestleMania. I'm expecting them to probably be the better Raws. But the fact you've got all these other months beforehand that you need to deliver, you need to keep the ratings up, you need to keep people interested, because obviously it's the interest that's going to get people to buy your WrestleMania tickets, to tune into WrestleMania. So it's the build that's the important part.
Essentially, the WrestleMania season is the most profitable era of the year for WWE. But it gets to a point where it's like, from Money in the Bank onwards to even now, it just seems like it's very hard. And why would someone consistently watch the WWE when they know they're just going to save all their best stuff for WrestleMania season? While that is most profitable, you've got to give the fans a reason to be watching from WrestleMania to next year. I'm sorry, that's just, it's reasons like that why, you know, people can't get into the product, really. Same old shit. I mean, how many times do we see matches done over and over again? How many times do we see John Cena in the main event? There's just so much same old shit going on in the WWE right now, and there's nothing new and nothing refreshing. It's all very stale and old.
The main thing is, after, let's say, 3 years of the same thing, it could be more or less, but when you get the same thing for the last 3 years, you can predict what's coming for the next 3. For example, like Randy Orton, John Cena, you know how their matches go, you know how they finish, you know they're most likely to win matches. And that's going to be going on for the next 3 years. And 3 years after that, it's the predictability of the same old things that we get every week that's really affecting the viewership of the fans.
And when things become predictable, people know what's going to happen, and therefore they just tune out. And there have been many times when we've been watching segments. How many times have we called an RKO? How many times have we called a babyface ending the segment on stop? How many times have we called a bro kick? How many times have we called the who's going to win this match? I mean, so unpredictable. So predictable. Sorry, I said unpredictable. It's not a word you really want to associate with WWE. I'm sorry.
Not really. The sad thing is, when you go into a wrestling match, what you want is 2 great wrestlers against each other, fighting out. It can go either way. And to be honest, there's the odd matches here and there that does happen. But most of the time, you think, right, it's about time, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and bam, it happens.
I mean, most of the segments you watch, like you said earlier, you may watch for 1 or 2 segments, but most of the segments you watch, you're just like, this is just the same old stuff. I mean, John Cena in the main event, other things like that. It's gone to a point now where it's getting very hard to process the same old stuff and really continue to watch when you're just getting the same old thing, same old shit, rinse, lather, repeat every single time, really. And it's got to a point now where I think even children, you know, who, as brainless as they can be sometimes, are probably still getting tired by that. Did WWE have way too many shows? They have Raw, Superstars, Main Event, SmackDown,
NXT.
Slam, NXT. That's 6 shows that they have. Don't you think that maybe people are tuning out the product because there's so many damn shows to watch sometimes?
Well, I look at it from the past time. Heat, Raw, SmackDown. That flowed nicely. That gave us what we want. Yeah, there was velocity. You know, there were just repeated shows. So to be honest, those 3 shows gave us what we wanted. But to pile it up just so Vince can get more of a money rolling in, so he can probably have like title changes on non-big shows like Raw, SmackDown. It's not profitable to the fans who are watching the 2 big shows.
I mean, it's one thing to try and increase your ad revenue, and from that standpoint, I understand why Raw have gone to 3 hours and why they maybe do a lot of shows, but it's got to a point now where there is just way too much, and if you want to be a devout WWE fan, how can you sit there every day and watch WWE? Like, you know, we watch Raw, SmackDown, I watch NXT, we watch pay-per-views. That's enough for me, really. And even just watching those 3 shows alone, I'm still kind of fed up of what WWE is giving me. And so how would I feel if I was watching all the rest of those other shows?
It's a bit of a shame because there are some people in the YWC, I'm going to give these not a shout out, but just a general overall, that do watch all the shows, review them all. So for that I give you credit, because obviously you're tuning into what WWE offers. But when it comes to the things that count, the things that have been counted for the last so many years, which is Raw and SmackDown, you're trying to add other shows into this. Yes, you might be getting money from it, but in all honesty, the main focus should be Raw and SmackDown.
And to be honest, even though the focus may be on Raw and SmackDown, it's got to a point now where watching and reviewing SmackDown for us is getting to a point where we just can't do it anymore, so we're going to try and change the format so we can keep watching it, because we don't want to stop watching and reviewing SmackDown and the topics that come up. But it's got to a point now where SmackDown has become like a main event or an NXT or a Superstars, to a point where it just seems like a filler show.
And this comes back to when we first started doing the British Fist or the reviews.
Never did SmackDown.
SmackDown was not a part of our
video
channel, yes. And that was a point where, even back then, it was bad. It picked up, went back down. So now it's come to a point where we've got to come with something completely different once again. which you'll see on Friday.
Yeah, and the 3-hour Raw I don't think helps. I mean, the fact that Raw was not a great show in that 2 hours, now they're trying to expand it to 3 hours. And like I said, while that may be good in terms of ad revenue, it's not really increased your ratings. They've had to put more stuff on there, and clearly they don't have much else to support that show. And these are the kind of things we're going to be going on to in the next maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. I don't really know. But we'll start off with terrible roster. WWE do not have an indefinite roster to carry a 3-hour show, not to mention 2 brands, really, do they?
Well, to be honest, I think they do have the roster. It's just that a quarter of the roster, sorry, are not being used. Like, they do have a hidden roster that, yes, they're smaller talent, but they could help the tag team. They could help the mid-card. But their main focus is on the main event stars more than the mid-card and tag team. So I think their roster's good, but not as good as it used to be. And they're not using their full roster, which is affecting their lower card.
And to be honest, whether we like it or not, guys, the WWE is a very top-heavy product in the sense that they will generally put most of the focus on the main event guys, and that is an understandable business plan in the sense that the main event guys are the bigger draws in the company, but really, you do need backup. You do need other things, like TNA used to have the X Division, the Tag Team Division, the Knockouts Division. You need these things to help form the glue that really puts your product together, and you know, when the show is so top-heavy, they're featuring, like I said, the same guys in there. The roster itself, I'll agree, it's not terrible. I think the thing about it most is the fact that there is very little star power, and the WWE's and Vince McMahon especially, his inability to make new stars has really hindered the roster. And you see TNA with a really vast roster of stars. Most likely, most of them are from WWE, I'll admit, but at least, and you look at WWE and they just have all these guys that are nobodies, that can never be main event guys. They're not, and you have these guys that could be bludgeoning main eventers, and yet WWE just mess them up creatively and never make them into stars. And that is a big problem, and that means that you see the same guys featuring the main event spot every week because they're the only stars WWE ever can fucking focus on.
And that's very true, because there's about 4 or 5 mid-carders or in the tag teams that could have been or could be main eventers.
Alex Riley.
Very true. It's just when they get their chance or they're going up the ladder towards it, there's always someone there who's going to knock them back down a few steps.
John Cena.
Which is John Cena, Randy Orton. And it's a bit of a shame because the fact is you do want to create more of a larger roster. Like in the old eras, you had like Triple H, Rock, Austin,
Angle, Undertaker, Kane,
Jericho. You had all that there, and they were all spaced out individually nicely. Some could slip down to the mid-card when needed. Right now, all we've got is the 3-4 main eventers and the rest mid-carders who slip down the ladder every time they try and climb.
And I think with that terrible roster comes another problem in the sense that there's just not very interesting storylines. And that's not just because of the writing, which we're going to go on to in a minute. It's generally because it's also to do with the lack of star power and the people in the feuds. Because if you can't get behind the people in the feuds, how are you supposed to get behind the storylines? Not to mention what is, in my opinion, one of the worst eras for WWE's writing team. Especially now they've got in these Hollywood writers that don't really know wrestling, which is the core of the frickin' product.
That's true, because when it comes to the big massive storylines, we can name loads from the Attitude Era, which obviously made memorable moments. We're getting some now, especially like with Punk, because obviously he gave us quite a few, but none that actually last long term, which obviously affects the viewership and the entertainment from the fans who tune in every week to see something big happen.
And I will perform an experiment now on behalf of this theory that NJ has come up with. What was the best feud of 2011? Do you remember it?
2011 was it Orton's time?
2011, the best feud of 2011. What was it? And I think I'm showing my point here. You can't remember a big feud from 2011. Exactly. You can't really remember a great feud from 2011. And whereas, let's say, do you remember a great feud from 1998?
Well, back in that time, that was all Triple H's stuff and HBK and all that, my favourites.
Austin and Vince. I mean, you had so many good, memorable storylines from that kind of period. So I think I showed my point there, really. I mean, do you really remember that many storylines from the past, you know, from 2011? No, because they really weren't that interesting, and WWE never really ever delivered on the storylines. Let's not forget the Nexus angle, the Summer of Punk. You could even say Punk's heel turn. You know, you got all these storylines which had a potential to really grab the audience's attention, and then WWE kind of just goes, nah.
Well, to be honest, obviously, as much as this is more of us complaining about the WWE, the good thing about it is that they have given us some.
Yeah, but they've never delivered on it.
It's been the Ric Flair retiring. There's been the streak, obviously, when Shawn Michaels goes against Taker, Triple H goes against Taker. So there are things that count out and stand. So I'm going to be nice to what this is.
But we're talking about lately here. We're not talking about in those periods. WWE, you could argue they were getting better ratings, better pay-per-view buy rates. The interest was a lot better. They had much more star power, as you pointed out. I'm talking about recently. Now, recently, look at the Nexus angle. Did that deliver? Yes or no?
Sadly, it goes back to our early points where obviously their main focus is on the big stars. The next angle failed because they're too busy concentrating on the ones that are already up there, which is John Cena.
And I think the fact that right now we have a WWE champion in CM Punk who is currently drawing lowest ratings in 15 years kind of shows you how little the Summer of Punk angle did in making the guy a draw and how much it failed. Anyway, speaking of terrible writing, that's one. Awful.
The writing is the thing that many people would point out because every show, it goes back to the points you've already made, the predictability, the bad storyline, the unusage of wrestlers. It's the writers that many people will complain about on a number of bases.
I mean, some of the storylines that come out with, I mean, AJ and Vicky basically copying the Claire Lynch storyline. I mean, some of the storylines that come up with, it's not just that, but sometimes it's just how generic some of these title feuds are. For example, it's like you have like Cesaro and R-Truth for the US title. Why are they feuding, other than the fact that they've been involved on the same part of the TV show together? Is there any reason for them to be? Is there any reason for their characters to feud? It's things like these why people really can't get behind feuds because they feel like filler feuds, and there really is nothing to them apart from wrestler A is going after wrestler B, who's the champion. That's how some of these feuds feel. Would you not agree? Rather than having a storyline to them, it's just like, well, you know, this guy's going after this guy for the title because he has a championship and he wants to challenge for it.
Because very true, because it's hard to actually pick out, let's say, the feud of 2011, the feud of 2012. It's not really been there apart from Punk and Cena.
Which is repetitive in itself.
You could say Christian, Orton, but none of these really worked out. So to be honest, even with we've named main eventers, that's the point. Naming main eventers being the big feuds of the year instead of the like mid-card, where you could have a great mid-card match.
Where is the mid-card right now, NJ? I mean, do WWE really have... It's like, I look at the mid-card and I'm like, well, where are the credible mid-card babyfaces? I see Christian, I see maybe Rey Mysterio, maybe Sin Cara, and then I see all these heels, like the Cody Rhodes, the Dolph Zigglers, and the Wade Barretts, etc. I see all these mid-card heels that have nothing to do sometimes because of the fact that they just don't have that many babyfaces on this side, which I think is another problem. The lack of big-time babyface draws that WWE not just have a lack of, but people, in my opinion, just have a lack of interest in. Look at your prime example, John Cena. Why does he get a mixed reaction every week? Because people are fed up of him at the top and they're fed up of the character, including this guy right here. I imagine you look like you're going to have a bit of a Cena rant, so go on, take it away.
Thank you very much, because for a long time now, as you really know, even when he was did the rapper thing, that quickly died because they wanted to move him on, and when they moved him on, his character died. It's been the same thing over and over again. Many people could do the same thing as me, name 50 reasons why John Cena sucks. Yes, you could try and defend him, but at the end of the day, the WWE have made him this god of the WWE, where everything's got to be in John Cena's hands and everyone else has nothing.
And you really bring up a good point there. It's like the lack of big-time babyface draws that WWE have. You can only really rely on John Cena. I mean, who else can you really rely on? Orton?
My point about John Cena is obviously when the WWE want to put someone over or make a big match for a pay-per-view, they do rely on Cena. Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, they've always relied on John Cena to put that guy over or put them in the main event.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, I remember in the Golden Era, they used to focus mainly off Hulk Hogan, but at least Hulk Hogan was the top babyface for a long time. At least you had other guys there, like the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts. At least you had other guys like that in the main event scene. And at least Hogan was an engaging and interesting character that could be seen by the mainstream as this big, larger-than-life superhero kind of character. Now, John Cena is no doubt a superhero by his booking, but is John Cena really as interesting of a character as a top guy than, say, Brock Lesnar, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Hulk Hogan? No.
I don't think Cena will ever be one of those kind of characters, but the WWE are probably trying to get Cena to be where Hogan is. Like, you're unbeatable, you're a top guy, we're always going to rely on you over others. So I think they're really focusing too much on Cena, which is all these reasons put together. They're relying on one guy more than the rest of their roster.
Another reason, I think we should move on from that now, filler and lack of feuds. Now, there are a lot of problems with this. when you have a lack of feuds on a show, there is a lot of filler. And first, I just want to address this filler. And when you see filler that you don't give a shit about, it makes you tune out, yeah?
Filler is a bad thing because obviously when you don't have the creative writers, which we already said, you don't have the forwarding of storylines, you have to concentrate on the here and now, which is last minute booking or the filler matches, filler feuds that only last a month at least.
And to be honest, the lack of feuds in WWE is very apparent right now. I really would make a personal call to Vince Russo and say, come to WWE, because at least then I would know we would get 8 feuds on a TV show. Whereas if WWE going into... Sorry, whether it was WWE as we're going into Survivor Series, we have 5 matches, and when you have a real lack of feuds like that, it shows you also that they have a real lack, like I said earlier, of baby faces, because they have plenty of heels, but they don't have that many credible baby faces for them to feud up against. And when you have maybe a feud involving Cena, a feud involving Punk, a feud involving Sheamus, a feud involving Randy Orton, what else is there? Because you've got those feuds there which seem like they're much higher than everything else on the frickin' card.
And that's the point, because in the olden day, or even recently you could say, the mid-card belts meant something. Like, we could name great IC matches in the past, and it's at those times we need something like that in the now era, but because of all these points we're making, the WWE can't do that, which is obviously this point we're making now.
Yeah, so a lot of filler makes people tune out. The lack of feuds and the lack of real investment into storylines as well as that makes people tune out. I don't really think this has anything to do with the video, but would you agree that Linda McMahon's Senate run was limiting WWE somewhat, which is what probably made people tune out? It led to, you know, more of a PG product, more of a family-friendly product.
I'm going to give you one number, 2010. With that year was the year where we lost many great wrestlers and stuff. Ones that could have been great in the mid-card and eventually main eventers. But the reason they left is because the WWE wanted to save money because they invest so much into Linda. And I really think Linda and her relationship with Vince McMahon and the WWE has really affected the WWE for a few years now.
So what does that say about the WWE? It says they care more about Linda McMahon's Senate campaign than their actual core competencies, which is their wrestling show. And not to mention the fact that they've gone into movies and stuff like that. Vince tried the XFL, the Bodybuilding Foundation, other things which go well away from the core competencies that WWE really should be showing in their product right now, which is their primary focus, which is their pro wrestling. And sometimes it feels like WWE is anything far from a pro wrestling product. Would you not agree?
It is coming that way. Like, the main word we've been using for a long time now is soap. It's becoming more of a, instead of a wrestling business now, it's becoming more of a soap that's interesting. Let's say the now time.
The casual fans.
Yes, instead of the hardcore wrestling, which we tune in to watch WWE for, because that's where the wrestling used to be.
And even the casual fans now are tuning out. 2.5 rating, the lowest since 1997. It shows even the casual fans, Vince McMahon, are tuning out of your product because they think it's crap. I'm just saying. Go on.
It's just that the whole Linda thing, yes, there's a big chance, no matter what WWE do, Linda's always going to be put first, because obviously Vince McMahon and Linda are the top thing in the company. So at the minute, I don't see much changing, so to be honest, Linda's going to be one of the big downfalls for the WWE for a few more years.
And she has lost, so I'm not sure that's the case, but I see where you're coming from, especially with the effects that this Linda McMahon Senate campaign has had on the product long term as well. I think another reason why people are tuning out of WWE is because there's no cutting edge. I mean, we saw that Punk and Lawless segment, which a lot of people would call cutting edge, and we will be discussing that on the video we're going to be doing on Friday. But for a long time now, there has been no edge to WWE's product, and the one thing that appeals to people like us adults is edge. You look at the heels now, the heels do a lot of kind of edgy things, and there's a reason why you're a fan of Triple H, because you liked all the heel stuff he did and the edgy stuff he done. When you look at the WWE babyfaces right now, how freaking squeaky clean are they? You look at when the Rocky Maivia debuted as a squeaky clean Samoan guy, people booed the fuck out of him, but as soon as he became The Rock, people started cheering for him because he was an edgy guy, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was a massive part of the Attitude Era because he was essentially a heel that did edgy things, pretty much presented to you as a babyface that you could cheer as an anti-hero. Need I say much more?
Either going past the CM Punk and Lawler thing, which we'll go into more detail later, you had the CM Punk, some of Punk, where he cut a great promo, and then the thing is, the WWE allowed it to happen, then all of a sudden just thought, no, this is going too far, let's stop it. So to be honest, I think the WWE allows stuff to happen, but they're not full term, which obviously annoys fans like.
And to be honest, you compare CM Punk in the summer of 2012 and the summer of 2011, you saw a massive difference in his character, really. And that's another thing, they don't really follow up on this kind of things on this storyline. So there's a real lack of cutting edge in the WWE, and a real lack, in my opinion, sometimes in the way they try and appeal to the mainstream. They've tried to bring celebrities on, like the Muppets. Now they may appeal to kids, and they may also appeal to adults that used to watch it a long time ago, but when you see the Muppets, when you see the Three Stooges, when you see people like that on the show, do you really, does it really give you the sense that WWE is a serious product that you can take seriously?
I think the WWE, like I said earlier in the video, they're going to do what they can to draw new eyes in. That's why they've had to bring back old wrestlers. They're having to bring back celebrities just so people think, oh, I can't wait to see what he's going to do on Raw, what he's doing on SmackDown. So I think that's the only reason they're doing it. So it's not actually a bad thing, but it's just obviously not wrestling, it's celebrities.
And I think the fact that WWE have had to resort to so many big stars from the past and so many celebrities to try and draw interest into their products, such as Lesnar and Rock, says a lot about their product right now, because without Brock Lesnar and Rock on the TV screen, there's not really much there. But going into WrestleMania season, we'll have Taker, Triple H, all the old stars back. Suddenly there'll be something there. And I think that says a lot for how far down the WWE product has gone as a whole. Would you agree that in WWE NJ that there's a lot of characters that are quite bland and generic that you really can't get behind, especially the baby faces?
It's come to a point with the way I feel about it is when they turn one great heel to a face, then you lose interest in them. When you turn a face into a heel, it's different. But other than that, when you bring in, especially the new characters come in, they're all the same. They're all gimmicky. They all
have names. They all have a Wade Barrett, Evan Bourne.
Well, not that. It's just more like the Funkasaurus.
Oh, yeah.
Miranda. It was all stupid stuff. Instead of bringing in big, strong names, like Wade Barrett's not too bad. It's just, I really think when it comes to trying to draw in attention, try and draw in new stuff in the company, it fails.
Because the characters aren't unique. They don't stand out, and they're not larger than life. And you see these guys like, you've got Wade Barrett, Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal, Heath Slater. They all have the same freaking name. This is why a guy like Ryback stands out, because at least he has a kind of gimmicky name, and he has a character which you don't really see in WWE, that big monster babyface kind of character that kicks ass consistently. That's one of the reasons why Vince is pushing him, guys, because he stands out from a Wade Barrett, Drew McIntyre, Heath Slater, Jinder Mahal, Alex Riley. Do you know what I mean? It's the fact that, it's not a big issue, but it's an issue worth mentioning. The fact that they all have like bland names. There's no gimmicks. There's nothing that really stands out, like Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts, the Honky Tonk Man. All of these were unique gimmicks that stood out at some point in the WWE, especially in pop culture. Now, where in pop culture does John Cena stand out as anything relevant? The Marine, which is probably the WWE's best success at the WWE studios.
Rap CDs.
I mean, back then the rap CD may have been a great idea, but right now, does he really stand out relevant in the mainstream and really get WWE any kind of exposure anymore? Really?
Other than the stuff he does outside the WWE, there's not really anything about him that obviously brings in more eyes.
Yeah, exactly, which is why the WWE movies idea is a stupid one. So bland characters and gimmicks that we can't really get behind, I think is another reason why people are tuning out, because they're sitting there like, well, I see Sheamus, I see Cena, I see Orton, I see voices in my head, and it's like, well, how the fuck am I supposed to get behind these guys when they're booked like heels most of the time? Sometimes I find myself rooting for the heels simply because they seem like the underdogs, and they're supposed to be the people that we boo. Yeah, how are we supposed to do that when they're booked as underdogs, and they're booked as the people that are overcoming the big obstacle of all the babyfaces in WWE? I understand Vince McMahon has been booking WWE mainly as a babyface-orientated company for quite some time, but for God's sake, can we not let our heels get some heat sometimes? That is something I will be addressing on my channel at some point. I've recorded the video, I just need to decide the time to upload it. Next point then. Lack of long-term direction, last-minute rewrites. It's worth saying.
Already kind of covered this throughout all of our points, little bits, but an overall thing is that the WWE used to have like a full thing to aim for. Yes, they're going to start to build it towards the Rumble, they're going to build it towards WrestleMania, but obviously to build up to a big storyline that is going to draw in eyes, draw in attention, draw in money, they don't really have that. If they do, it only lasts a month or two.
Yeah, and you look at the way WWE do Raw right now, it's like, you can tell when Vince McMahon's shooting, saying that, oh, the main event of Survivor Series is going to be this, and you could tell it was a shoot, you could tell it was a last-minute rewrite, and the amount of rewrites they do on Raw, you know, you see, how are you supposed to think this is something that's got any kind of a long-term, when they're just rewriting shit, and a lot of the times, it seems like they're just doing shit as they go. It's like they do something, well, let's think of the idea later, rather than planning it out long-term and thinking of how they're going to go about cultivating this. It's like, with the Summer of Punk, great idea, but do you ever think WWE had any long-term vision? I mean, as soon as CM Punk won the belt, he jobbed to Del Rio, he jobbed to Triple H, he then jobbed to Awesome Truth, he also jobbed to I can't remember who, but he jobbed 4 times in a row while he was supposed to be the hottest thing in WWE. That is why he's not a draw anymore, and that is why you can't develop any stars. It all combines, all that points into big one ball, doesn't it, really?
It does seem that way. It's just that the WWE, if they want something big to happen, something to want us to see the build up to something, Raw and SmackDown, they do need better planning long term, just so when it comes to a pay-per-view, you can be like, yes, that's what all this has been building up to. We don't really get that.
No, and to be honest with you, I think this is a good place to end the video. We've gone on for now about half an hour. We understand the video may have been long, but we hope you did follow us through this video. And if there's anything we missed, I'm sure there's a lot of things that we probably missed in this video, really. But if you guys can point anything out to us that we've missed, or any reasons why you've been tuning out the WWE product like I've been feeling like doing for some time now, but put your thoughts in the comment section below, if you will. So, why are people tuning out the WWE product? Do you want to do an outro? Or?
All I'm going to say is, people, I still support the WWE. It's not came to a point for me where I'm like, oh, I quit this. Because like I said, we have big pay-per-views coming up. We have the fact that the WWE are sooner or later, especially if they continue getting in the 2 area, so it's bound to click in one of their heads. We'll just have to wait till that day comes. But if you fans cannot do that or won't do that, then you have all the right, and we fully understand why you would tune out of it.
Advice to any of you disillusioned WWE fans out there, you know exactly what I'm going to say. Give TNA a chance. Don't just sit there and say, oh, TNA, well, I can't watch TNA because it's TNA. Give the fucking product a chance. And it might do what it did for me and actually give your wrestling fandom a little bit of a boost. That's all I'm going to say about that. And don't watch ROH, but there we go. So that's been our thoughts on this video. Like I said before, comment in that comment section below. The SmackDown review will be a bit different this week. We're going to try and change the format simply because we're just fed up of reviewing SmackDown, and we're going to try and do some kind of like talking point video, some topics mixed in there to do with SmackDown, taking out all the filler and discussing the main points, and really, like WWE do, and base the review and base the video off all the main things they do.
So for the people that like discussions or just want not an overall show review, who just want a big talking point about SmackDown or about the wrestling company itself on that particular day, tune into our Friday video.
Indeed. And that's been it from me, Mr. Parkin. This guy sitting next to me, who's going to be positive for this part of the video, NJ.
What's up?
Thank you very much for watching, people. We've been the British Fist.
Good.
And goodbye.